Hola mis amigos, ¿qué sopa? In today's video, I want to introduce you and take you on an imaginative journey to Panama through the drawing of La Pollera. La Pollera, this is the design that we're going to be looking at. I was born in Panama, so I want to tell you a little bit about my country, the special dress that I'm drawing today. So vamos a comenzar. So many people I meet tell me I'm the first person they know from Panama. Panama is such a small country, and I feel that a lot of people love to stay and live in Panama. Usually when they go abroad, it would be to the US or Spain. However, if I think about my own family, everybody, like the majority is in Panama, but then there's a few spread around the US, Canada, Germany, Austria, and Ireland, like myself. And so we are a very, very small population across the world. And looking at the 2016 census from Ireland, there are only 11 to 50 people in Ireland that are from Panama. So imagine how small the people are here. And just last weekend I was on a market and I met 4 of them. So that must have been the majority of people here in Ireland. Anyway, I grew up as an expat from the age of 5. I'm gonna add here a little timeline because it's a bit complicated, all the places that I grew up in. Due to my upbringing, I have really become passionate about learning about different cultures from all around the world. I love how the more cultures you learn or find out and discover, the more you realize how there's a million ways to live life. There isn't the one way or the one right way. And the other thing that I love is how ultimately it shows how underneath it all we're just all the same. This is my first video of the series I'd like to call Travel Via Art. In this series, I want us to take trips together across the world and learn about different cultures through art, through drawings, but also through chats. The whole aim is that we develop this cultural curiosity for places outside of our own cultures. I am starting the series by looking at my beginnings, my roots, and where my heart will always be, namely my home country, Panama. Before we start, I have one random question. This is one of the questions that I get asked quite a lot as I have traveled the world, and it is, how do you call somebody from Panama? Let me know in the comments and I'll reveal the correct answer at the end of the video. Panama is such a small country, and back in the days when internet was not around and I was already living abroad, it was almost impossible to get any information around about the country. And some of the best reactions that I have received from people all around about Panama are the following. As I said before, you're the first person I meet from Panama. A child once said to me, I didn't know that Panama was a real country. I thought it was made up. And the reason for it was there's this book in Germany from an author called Janosch, and the book is called Oh, wie schön ist Panama, which essentially translates to Oh, how beautiful is Panama. And it is about a story of a tiger and a bear that follow the smell of bananas trying to find Panama. So I won't reveal more about the story, but essentially that's a children's book that was read in Germany. So this child said that to me. And then of course, what people mostly know about Panama is the Panama Canal, which you might know is one of the New World Wonders. The export of bananas, it's true, it's huge. I think it's like 19 million craters or something crazy like that. I'll put the correct number on this video. A little bit about the demographics now. Panama is officially in North America. However, we do not consider ourselves North Americans. We are Central Americans, and that's how we identify. And I was very adamant about that when I was younger. I used to fight my teachers back in school and tell I'm not South American, I'm Central American. So do that kind favor of trying to say the correct one. Panama is located between Costa Rica to the north and Colombia to the south, and we have the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean on both of our sides. Panama's population is about 4.5 million people, so it's relatively small in comparison to some other countries. It's more or less the same size as Ireland, actually, in terms of population and also in terms of geographical mass. And something that makes Panama very special, it is the isthmus. What that essentially means is it's the narrowest part in the continent of America. And the Panama Canal, if you have heard of that, you know it is the smallest place and it is where vessels can get through. And just to give you an idea of the width, now I've seen different kilometers depending on the sources that I have found. So it's somewhere between 50 to 80 kilometers in length, the smallest part. And just as a comparison for those people watching from Ireland, that would be a seine going from the Dublin airport to Kildare, which is about 65 kilometers, so a little bit over an hour for you to get there. So just imagine like how small it is. Also around that narrow part is the one bridge that is very famous, which connects both South America with North America, and that is El Puente de las Américas, which is the bridge of the Americas. That's what it translates to. It used to be the only bridge back in its days to actually connect the continents, but now there is a modern and another bridge that also does the same function in a slightly different area. But this one is still very majestic. I'll put up a picture somewhere and you can appreciate how beautiful it is. The official language in Panama is Spanish, and also since 2010 there's about 7 official indigenous languages that have been recognized. The most spoken language is Spanish, and out of the indigenous languages we would have the Novere, I hope I'm saying that right, Kuna, and El Embera. And from the Kunas, I just wanted to show you briefly, that's the indigenous group that has created the molas, which is one of the most iconic and most known artisan pieces of country internationally. And here I have a very small decoration that I have in my own home that I brought ages ago, and it's the mola style, which essentially means you have layers of fabric that are on top of each other, and the way they cut the fabric and sew the fabric by hand allows them to reveal the underlying colors or the underlying fabrics from beneath. So the black one here would be the top fabric, and then the red and the blue and all of those other colors would be sort of underneath, and they sew that in such a way that you can appreciate then, in this case, this little toucan. There is, however, super elaborate, much bigger ones than the one that I have here, but I thought it might be nice for you to see it. The official currencies in Panama are Balboa and the US dollar. Panama's weather, as you can imagine, is a tropical place, 35 degrees, mostly all around the year. It's very humid, and then there is a specific season between May and December, I believe, that we have something like a monsoon type. It's sort of like the rainy season, and it can be best compared, I would say, to some types of Asian monsoons, so sort of like similar weather that they get over there, where it just rains day on end. And I live in Ireland, and Ireland is known to rain a lot. However, it's a very different type of rain. So in Ireland, the rain can be quite aggressive, but for short periods of time. And you might have like 5 different seasons in the one and same day. Whereas in Panama, when there's the raining season, it just rains and rains and rains the whole day, and you end up having a lot of flooding. At some point, just the canalizations and all that just cannot take all the water intake that is coming down. And just to share like a little story, when I remember when I was a child living in Panama, and when it was kind of the raining season, we would put on our bathing suits, my brother and I, maybe the neighborhood kids as well, and we'd play on the terrace. We would slide outside as it's raining, so like that was kind of our pool area, if you will. And Yeah, I kind of missed that. That's kind of really nice because it's super refreshing. The drops are kind of big drops, and it's just a refreshing kind of type of environment because it's hot, and then you get the nice cool shower from the rain. Another beautiful thing about Panama is its biodiversity. It has actually inspired me to create a coloring book just all about that. One of the reasons why it's so unique is because of Panama's location. So a long time ago, when sort of the whole continent became to be the way it is, there were a lot of migrations between the animals that were coming from the south going to the north, and vice versa from the north coming to the south, that some of them didn't make it the whole way, and therefore a lot of them kind of stayed in Panama, and it created this very unique and very diverse biodiversity. This has created a very unique biodiversity in Panama, and I've linked in the description a link to the Biomuseum, which is a museum in Panama that it even has like a virtual tour, so you could enjoy it from wherever you are. But it shows and talks about the biodiversity in Panama. It's a beautiful museum, so if you ever get a chance to go to Panama, make sure to visit it. In terms of landscape, Panama has so many beautiful landscapes, and it's actually quite varied. You have, of course, the beautiful beaches, and the beaches also look slightly different. You have some of like the more like traditional kind of tan sand style, but you also have some white beaches, and you have as well mountainous areas that have like a lot of green, a lot of trees. There's even valleys that you can go, so a bit more mountainous areas. And we even have a volcano. It's a dormant volcano, and it's in the province of Chiriqui. But yeah, it's a lovely place. One of the things that I miss the most about Panama is the food. Absolutely love the food. Just to kind of give you a bit of a general idea, as you can imagine, maybe we eat a lot of rice, we eat a lot of beans, we eat loads of different styles of meat, a lot of root vegetables, and fried stuff. So the last time I went to Panama, I got myself this cooking book with loads of recipes. I can put in the description more information about the books. But I also bought it in English because one of my biggest challenges growing up before the internet as well was that I couldn't find the ingredients, because the names from Spanish, I had no idea what they were called in German or in English, right? So one of my favorite meals is sancocho. So it's this one over here. You would even find this in like when people go out at night after drinking and dancing, they might stop at a place, at midnight or whatever, late at night, and grab a bowl of sancocho. So that's kind of typical, at least back in the days. It might have changed. Another one is arroz con pollo, or chicken with rice, how they call it here, and it's essentially it's like a yellowish rice, kind of cooked with the chicken, and has lots of different bits in it, like capers and olives. I think in Panamanian food we like to mix different types of sweet with savory, but also the sourness from the capers and the olives with the savory and also sweetness. And there's loads more that I love here. I love patacones, I love yuca frita, which is like a cassava, fried cassava, pollo, loads and loads and loads that I could here go on about, but I might just link up the book, and you can have a look through different recipes and see if maybe something catches your eye. And in terms of ingredients, it used to be really hard back in the days, but luckily now there's a lot of Indian or African stores and shops, also here in Ireland where I live, where you can find things like plátano, which is one of the ingredients in some root vegetables, and there's even a Venezuelan shop that I found recently, so I will put that all as well in the link below. And a fun fact, what is internationally known as the Panama Hat is not from Panama. This is actually a hat from Ecuador that became famous during the construction of the Panama Canal, and so people and workers were using it back then when in this construction, and because it was in Panama, people called it the Panama Hat, but it's not. However, Panama has actually a lot of different hats, which we call sombreros. And here's an example. This is called el sombrero pintado, and it is just as iconic as the pollera from Panama, so I thought I'd show it to you as well. Now, this is a perfect segue to go back to the pollera. The pollera I'm drawing today is called Pollera de Lujo or Pollera de Gala, which essentially means the luxurious pollera. Pollera is just a name of itself. Imagine it like dress or skirt. And I selected this pollera specifically because it is one that I find the most iconic from Panama. As a reference, I'm using an image from my aunt Leda. She is very passionate about folklore, and she used to perform and dance with the folkloric ensemble with the INAC, which is the National Institute of Culture. And so she traveled the world showing the culture of Panama through dances, through folkloric dances. There are many different variations of the pollera. I'll put links, check the description, it is filled with links on so many things, but essentially it depends on the region where it's being used, and also with newer generations it continues to evolve. The ones that I'm most familiar with is the Pollera de Lujo, which I'm drawing, la Pollera Montuno, and also la Pollera Blanca. Polleras are usually used in national events, traditional dances, folkloric events, but also weddings. What is mostly used for weddings is la Pollera Blanca, which essentially means it's a white pollera. Most of it is in white. There's only a few details at the top that are colored. And there's even people that go out of their way. This is a little souvenir that I have from a wedding that I went to of a friend. And so it's essentially la Pollera Montuno, which with the male Montuno, as it's called as well, which is absolutely adorable. So I keep this as decoration. And here's a pic of me wearing a Pollera Blanca. This was me on national television. I was the lottery fairy, and I was maybe 9 years old or something like that. La Pollera Montuno is more often used in the countryside, and half my family is from the countryside, from a province called Chiriqui. And so I was blessed to have a grandmother that used to make polleras for all of us grandchildren. We are a lot of them, so it would have taken her probably a lot of time and effort. And there is a picture here somewhere about me with my first Pollera Montuno. And I still remember my grandmother's old school sewing machine. I don't know exactly how it worked. I was way too small to understand, but it was one of those that it was non-electrical, and the pedal was just a big grid that with her feet, I just remember she had to rock it back and forth to get the machine to sew, to move the needle up and down. So these are the kinds of things that when you're older you realize how much heritage there was in that, and I just wish or hope that I had more time to learn from her or see that more extensively. If you know a little bit about Latin America's or Panama's history, it will come as no surprise that the origins of la pollera are from Spain. The dresses actually from various regions in Spain are what influenced the pollera from Panama, and that was also influenced by the slaves that came to Panama or that were brought to Panama, and that were the ones creating and manufacturing the pollera in those days. And so they brought some of their own cultures, and then the pollera was adapted to the tropical weather in Panama, which was different to Spain. The pollera usually consists of a lot of items, and instead of me rattling them all up, and I am no expert in it, I have linked in the description an article that really shows you every single different item that there is that is used. But at high level, the elements of a pollera are the top, a skirt, the shoes that are usually matching with a little bubble that the top has here at the front. There is like a golden oval comb that you put into your hair, usually here at the back and sometimes on the sides. We also use tembleques. It's these little things that I'm wearing here for you. I borrowed this from a friend. And let me show you one a little bit more, outside of the hair. So there's like a big bobbin. And then these things are made with like these wires underneath, so you can actually shape it the way you want. Usually the designs are flowers or animals that represent the Panamanian culture. I believe this one, if I'm not wrong, it's called papo, which is one of the Panamanian flowers. And and then you can modify it as you want. And just so that you understand how much pride and love goes into these things, even at school, I remember when I was in school in Panama, we were taught how to make tembleques. And in terms of jewelry, there is loads and loads of gold jewelry. It's usually in the shapes of necklaces. Some are long, some are short, some go like a bit like choker style. Some are square. There's earrings that go with it, and loads and loads of jewelry. So again, check the links, because then you can see images that portray the different styles. A few very iconic songs, or I guess the most traditional and the most played, I would say are El Punto, El Tamborito, y La Denesa. Again, links in the descriptions. I put an article where it describes the dances, and it also shows you videos so that you can actually see the dances in action. I have to admit, as I was doing research for my script and what I'm sharing with you here, I was getting very nostalgic listening to Típico and dancing to it. And I am absolutely gutted that I couldn't find any royalty-free, so like copyright-free music, I use this service where I get my music from, and they didn't have anything authentic Panamanian. So instead, what I have done is I have added a link to a Spotify playlist, actually 2 Spotify playlists, so that you can listen to Típico or Pinding, as I've mentioned before. But if I were to describe the dances, I would say that they're very elegant. They're very like smooth and slow, and there's an element of coquetteness, is that a word? But essentially, because this is a dance done by partners, so usually there's a male and a female that dances together, and they're dancing in not necessarily synchron, but that they're kind of talking to each other. There's a lot of storytelling as they're dancing, and there's movement of the skirt, of course, to showcase the beautiful craft as well. It is also rather slow for what you potentially would expect from Latin America. If you think about Latin America, you're probably thinking about salsa or merengue or bachata or something, a little bit fast-paced. But these are more like subtle and smooth and And to me, the instrument that stands out the most is the accordion. There is some very specific instruments that are used for these, like certain types of drums that you might also be familiar with from other Latin American music, like salsa and stuff. But yeah, to me, accordion is what stands out. It's the kind of the little melody that you hear as like the most dominant element. And when I think back about these dances and the music, it even comes to mind that my brother and I were in dance classes back as children to learn these types of dances. And it was quite common back in the days to see quite a lot of people do that. So this actually shows again like kind of the love and time that people put into these folkloric and traditional customs. It takes a lot of work to make the pollera. There's a lot of handwork, craftsmanship that goes into it, and usually it is not made by one person, because all of the various elements that go into a pollera are usually done by somebody different. Therefore, it can take up to 1 year to create a pollera, and it can cost between 5,000 to 6,000 US dollars, because it's just simply so much work. And there is laws in place in Panama to protect the crafts industry and the artisans that created, the craftspeople that created. So pay attention when you're purchasing anything that is called pollera, that it is authentic from Panama, and that it is ideally maybe in Panama when you buy it. But it just allows for for those people that created to, you know, continue to be able to live from their craft, and that they're able to keep the heritage going. And now that we're coming to the end of the video, as promised, I'm gonna tell you how you call a person from Panama. What I have heard in the past is Panamanese, Panamaniacs, but the correct answer is Panamanian. I am Panamanian. And let's have a look at the Pollera de Lujo and how the drawing turned out. I truly hope I was able to take you on an imaginative journey to Panama, that you know a little bit more about the country and also the pollera. And I'd love to hear, what did you find was new information or unusual information about Panama that you found out in this video? And also tell me, what's your country's traditional dress? Don't forget to subscribe and to like this video if you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next video. And like we say in Chiriqui, ¡Ojo!